best gig I've ever seen in my life. But I'm also having my hair cut. You liberated me from my own tresses. That's another thing I have to thank you for.
I think me cutting your hair live on air was possibly when we sunk to our lowest point.
There was an element of shark jumping.
There was, that was exactly. I was trying to think when we jumped the shark, and I think that might well have been it.
It's a videoed haircut.
We always were very keen to make this a music show, and somewhere along the line we lost our way. Some would argue it was when I interviewed Mr. T, for instance. But I would say that was a great interview with T. There's been a couple more emails and texts.
Yeah, Jill has emailed in. She's from Seattle. She moved across the US to Washington DC for college. She was very homesick. It was a troubling year. But us guys helped her get through it.
Aww.
She loved the shows with Michael Sheen, of course.
Great shows.
Great friend of the show. So yeah, we've got a lot of fans in the US.
We have, haven't we?
We should really be exploiting that market.
We appear not to have had any emails or correspondence from anyone in the UK. Which is a great shame.
I beg to differ. Down in Brighton, a genuine cheers to Stephen the Gang for all the good times. Listened to your show on the internet when I was travelling around the world on my own last year. Well, actually, that does discount him as being a British listener.
Once again.
All over again. But I do like the idea of people, and there are a few people who've emailed in with this, and it means a lot that they sat in internet cafes in everywhere from Borneo to kind of Thailand, just sitting there paying 200 baht, whatever, for the hour, just sitting there,
just enjoying
listening to the show.
That's fantastic.
Which is really great.
Listen, some people just crave new music. They just need new music.
And Sideways looks at the news.
Sideways looks at the news.
And on the texts, you'll be a huge miss. Favourite guest? Sammy's dad. All the best. Sammy's dad. That is actually my dad. You text him there.
You've checked the number, have you?
Yep.
He was tremendous. Actually, maybe we should get him on the line again next week for a few more of his extraordinary anecdotes. Building a gallows on air, building a gallows on stage and then hanging a man. Rufus looks at me quizzically. Yeah, you missed that particular rev.
Yeah.
When we spoke to Sammy's father, he told us a rock and roll story of when he once...
I think they did Alice Cooper's Killer, a cover of live on stage, built a replica gallows and then accidentally nearly killed a member of their band. And it took a member of the audience to realise the man was almost dying to cut him down.
Absolutely extraordinary. There's been some great pop in the last 2 years. Obviously, we rarely play a lot of pop on the show, but I think few will be arguing that this was the pop highlight of the last 2 years. Must have been great when they sat back and listened to the final mix of that. They must have thought, we are making some money. We're going to make some money from this. Oh, man alive. That's my impression of Rihanna. As though she talks. So, Steve Show, penultimate show, and I realised that we have very much shot our wad, haven't we, early, because we foolishly, can you say that? Who knows? Who cares? Yeah, because what do we do next week now? We've very much looked retrospectively, but we haven't really, not in any depth.
No,
but we've certainly solicited some sweet emails. And
we've invited a lot of love, and we've got a lot of love. Yeah. Maybe next week should be for people who really don't like the show, because it'll be publicised now that we're leaving. There's not been an announcement yet. It'll go out this week, so maybe we should solicit, just vitriol and hate. I
am going to walk to the end of my garden, with my family around me, and explain why I must resign. Maybe I'll portray it as, in order to get a bit of press coverage, finally, maybe I'll portray it as I've done something horrific that's forced me to resign.
Yeah,
I've done something debauched and, terrifying in the halls of the BBC with, let me think. Let's think with Westwood. Me and Tim Westwood have done something despicable to another BBC employee in a cupboard.
See, I'd expect it of him, but not of you.
I know. This is why people are so shocked. And he's the son of a vicar as well. Westwood, what were you thinking? He drove me to it. He bullied me. You know what he's like. He's a streetwise kind of guy. I was just trying to impress one of the cooler kids. And I've done something horrific, so I apologise for that, and I'm forced to tender my resignation.
He said he'd let you try on his jacket if you were
exactly. Yeah, he pimped my ride, and I use that as a euphemism, but I don't know what for. Yes, I'm, as I say, forced to finally tender my resignation, but thank you so much. So, yeah, we need some ideas for what we can do next week. We'll bring a little bit of magic to that.
Never been a strong point for the show.
What, ideas?
Idea generation.
Yeah. Ideas have always been poor. It's something, really, we've not improved on, as the shows have gone on, really.
Is there a better show made up on the hoof, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there probably are.
One word for you. Moyles. Yeah. Wasn't he supposed to be resigning?
I don't know. Maybe our departure will force some sort of change in the Moyles camp. Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, if you've got any ideas for what we can do to celebrate our final show next week, then please do get in touch, because we got note.
Text us on 64046 or email stephen.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk.
If there's one man we can always turn to for a tremendous musical choice each week, then it is Rufus. He adores new music, and what have you got for us? Something you've enjoyed in the last 2 years?
That's right, Steve. I thought it would be nice to go through my tear-stained diary, looking at my favourite sessions for the last 2 years. And one session which I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did was Eccentric Tempest and her band Sound of Rum. So much so that I didn't try and get a freebie album, as some people do at radio stations, but I went online and bought it and had a quick email chat with the guys in the band, tell them how tell them how much we'd enjoyed listening to them. So this is a track for they were in a few months ago. This is a track that they played in their studio, and this is their in the hub, and this is their studio version of it. It's Icarus by Sound of Rum.
Keeping it real, Rufus is choice on this penultimate Steve show.
Sound of Rum by Icarus. May they... sorry, other way around. That's good, isn't it? Icarus by Sound of Rum. And honestly...
You're fired!
I knew it. I quit. Too late. I do think that some of the acts we've had in session have been fantastic, particularly some of the younger musicians, Rachel Ann Thank and Polly Scattergood and Eccentric Tempest, a lot of women, actually.
Listen,
I really hope
I'm an equal rights kind of guy, you know? Listen, there's a lot of ladies out there who make great music. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we've had some tremendous. I mean, it's always great because whenever they come into the hub, it always feels like it's a very intimate affair. Like we've won a competition, we get to see some of our favourite bands. Yeah, no, it's been great. And I tell you, thinking back, obviously the highlight for me, I think amongst many, was of course Mr. LL Cool J and his very kind words. For those of you that didn't hear that, you missed out. But I rapped for LL down the phone line, and he appreciated it, as we all know. I'm not even going to bother to play it. You all know what he said by this point. But yeah, that was certainly a highlight for me. I'm not sure there's going to be much else in my career unless I get to make a action movie with Will Smith, in which he and I record the final title track. That would be tremendous. That I think would be a dream come true. I don't know if he still does that. Does Smitty still do that? Does he still? He normally just takes an old record, some popular, kind of disco hit. Yeah, exactly. And
puts a beat to it.
Just puts a beat to it. Listen, we could, it's easy to do. It's easy to mock, but only Smith has got the chops to make it work so brilliantly. Now then, Harry, for some reason you've cheekily decided that you wanted to spin 2 tunes this week.
Well, yeah. Originally I was going to pick this one, but then the rules changed. We had to pick something from the last 2 years. This is from a few years ago, but you wouldn't have heard it. Bronze Age Fox were a huge Bristol band in the 90s, late 90s, early noughties, but sadly never got the acclaim that they deserved. You can buy a CD of theirs, a compilation of some old singles, but they recorded a fantastic pop masterpiece album, which was never released. It's finally seen the light of day on the internet, which is very exciting. So the band's called Bronze Age Fox, the album's called Impossible, this track is called You Wouldn't Want Me to Lie.
Fearful that you would not get a chance to play it, as this is the penultimate show, Harry has demanded that you get 2 musical choices this week. That was the second of them.
I stamped my foot and made sure that we played You Wouldn't Want Me to Lie by Bronze Age Fox. The album's called Impossible. Go to Bronze Age Fox MySpace or svcrecords.co.uk. The album's £3.
Whoa! You won't be hearing expressions of delight like that on Sunday afternoon anymore. So what shall we do next week as a final send-off? Maybe we should do something outrageous and controversial a la Brand to get us some notoriety.
That would be good.
Or we could just do the usual sort of half-baked, ill-planned music treat fest.
What's Mr. Fiendishly Difficult Music Question up to these days? Can we get him in?
I'll give him a bell.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have maybe we should just be at the kind of all the glory elements.
All the glory days, one of each. A Fiendish Difficult Music Question, a listener choice, a session track, a hub track that we've enjoyed. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll knock some ideas around, attempt to...
Could we not just put a clip show together?
I was just going to suggest that myself. Wouldn't that be great? Just, a retrospective. Because there's been some great moments. I mean, let's not forget the lovely Rashida Jones telling us about when she got bitten by Michael Jackson's monkey Bubbles.
Amazing.
I mean, you don't hear that on any other programme.
And she was interviewed this week in the paper, and they said, you must have had a very starry childhood. She went, no, not really.
Come on, what are you talking about? Yeah. We'll see if we can dig that out. But there's been a number of highlights in 2 years. You'd certainly hope so. I reckon there's been so many highlights, we could put together at least a 4-minute highlights package. Back next week.
On digital, online, BBC 6 Music.
Sugar, If I Can't Change Your Mind, from the album Copper Blue, of course. And for big Steve Show fans, then you will, of course, be terribly nostalgic and misty And whenever it was, many years back. Hands up if you remember that. There's no hands up. Even Harry can barely remember. And you were there, weren't you, from day one?
Yeah.
Great days, my friend, great days.
Exciting times all round.
If you did not tune in last week, then you may not be aware that this is our final Steve show. Never say never again, but at the moment, never again. Yes, we are leaving the airwaves for the foreseeable future, and so goodbye to us. Thank you for all listening. I'm out of here. Laters. No, of course, we have smartened ourselves up for this final show. If you would like to go on the webcam now, you will notice that I am looking, as the lady in the coffee shop earlier mentioned, dapper. You are looking very dapper, she said. And also she said, shouldn't you be doing the radio show? I said, no, it's the last show. And I never meet any fans of this programme, ever.
Someone actually
actually said, I always listen to that. I said, you listening today? She went, no. Great, okay. But, yeah, no, I've met at least 2 fans in the last 48 hours. Okay. So there you are. It turns out there are people listening. What a fool I was to jack it all in. But there we are. Yeah, so final show today. Thank you so much if you are tuned in. The gang is here. We've got Harry, who used to work in a bank. Remember in those days?
Oh, great days. Yeah, I used to wear a suit every day then, and of course we've got to dress smart for today because we're going out for a lovely, lovely dinner later. And I chose not to wear the suit because I still got a bit of a psychological issue with it. Because I wear a suit now, I just think of failure, of upset, of misery. So I've gone halfway. I've gone jeans and jacket. I've gone Hank Scorpio. So
it's what Jude Law would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you a man who always looked right in a suit, and who in many ways is bringing back the great traditions of BBC broadcasting, when every broadcaster would, I imagine, put a suit on, is the lovely Rufus.
Well, Steve, that's very, very generous of you. As you know, I have 24 suits.
Do you really?
No, I don't really. But I very much choose the colour and texture of my suit dependent on the geographical location at that time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have a sat-nav suit system.
You have a sat-nav suit system?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Basically, outside the M25, we're looking at rough-hewn tweeds.
Okay.
We're looking at greens and browns.
Sure.
So that I blend into the countryside.
Yes.
And so the splashes from the mud don't mess up my hems. I often go for a turn-up in the country as well. Once I cross the M25, I'm charcoal grey and dark blue.
I understand.
Yeah.
Do you have a pair of bright maroon socks?
I usually have. I've got some kind of quite bravely scarlet vermilion socks.
Excellent, good.
Much like David Frost.
Very Michael Grade.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But today it's simple black. Simple black socks.
Elegant. And a man who looks, if Rufus is a man who is born to wear a suit, then there's a tiny, tiny man, an occasional member of the show, in many ways an occasional stool of this programme.
Well, that's very kind of you.
In that, you're the sort of oral equivalent of me putting my feet up on something comfy but unimportant. And you man who does not work, you should be wearing a pair of sweatpants and a vest.
I normally am, yeah, but today I'm happy. It's Dan, by the way. I'm happy to be back, and I feel next to Rufus, I'm like a Lord Charles to his. Who was the guy who had Lord Charles?
Dave
Allen.
Dave Allen. No, Ray Allen.
No, Ray Allen.
Ray Allen.
You mean the puppet?
Yes.
The wooden
yes,
puppet.
I could be sat on Rufus.
A great reference there for anyone over the age of 50.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't even remember it myself. I'm quite old, so perhaps shouldn't have gone down that route, but never mind.
A person who almost certainly does not remember what you're talking about and would have been much happier with some kind of Orville reference is the lovely Sammy from the North.
It's funny you say Orville, because I actually compared myself to Orville this week. Don't you think I look a bit like Orville the duck?
It never occurred to me, but I can see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wish you could fly, Sammy, right up to the sky.
But I can't see
in an elegant
with the nappy.
You've dressed in something elegant and smart as well.
I have dressed one of two. I couldn't decide, so I'm wearing a longer dress for the show and then a shorter cocktail gown for this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to that enormously. If you want to check out on the webcam, then you can see how smart we all look. And as I say, it's the final show, so I'm sure, well, basically I've decided we're going to play not necessarily new music, it's just favourite tunes, all-time favourite